Yes, to find a ship, we have electronic equipment. Helps a lot if you can afford the equipment. And a shipwreck in the mud is usually well preserved. The artifacts are well preserved, but the mud is terrible to work in. A shipwreck on the rocks is easy to find, but it's badly preserved because there was nothing there to protect it. A shipwreck in the coral is probably the worst, the most difficult. If the coral is live, you don't want to kill the coral to dig up the wreck. And if the coral is dead, it's like concrete anyway. So you need a jackhammer to go and dig it up. And you destroy the artifacts, because with a sledgehammer and jackhammer you can't do any delicate kind of work. So each individual site has its problems. The one side is too deep and has clear water, and the other side is shallow but has muddy water. And one side, the water is ice cold, so you can't spend any time. And the other side, the weather is always bad and you can't get to it. So there is hundreds of thousands of shipwrecks out there, and each one is different from the other one. Well, on commercial diving, I used to dive to 660 feet, I guess was the deepest saturation dive I did. But I've been looking for a treasure wreck in 2,000 feet of water. But my preferred depth is less than 100 feet, where you can spend time on a wreck. You can spend several hours at it, where the logistics are not so terribly difficult, where it is more an individual effort than an effort of millions of dollars of machinery and equipment, which can all go wrong. No, I never had problems with it. We're always aware of it, but I think the danger is bigger to have problems with drug runners out there than actual pirates wanting to rob somebody for the money, at least in the Caribbean. I believe in the Philippines there are modern-day pirates robbing people for their money, but around here I've never heard it really happen. A friend of mine found a dugout which has been dated, I believe, I don't know now if it's 9,000 years ago or 9,000 BC, which is probably the oldest I've heard of. And I believe it's in either North Carolina or South Carolina. That friend of mine is quite an expert in bringing up prehistoric shark teeth. And on such a site he has found this ancient dugout. I don't know what's happening to it, I don't know if anything is happening to it. It's the oldest one I've ever heard of. My home base is in Switzerland, but I live on my boat, and my boat is stationed on the one ocean or the other. I can't sail to Switzerland since it's up in the mountains, but I can take my home along with me like a snail, and one year I'm in South America, the next year I'm in Africa, and the next year I'm in Florida. Wherever it's more interesting at the time. Not personally, no. He was one of my idols, though, as I grew up. And I greatly admire his efforts to save our world, his efforts to bring the necessity of ecology to the people. I think he was a great pioneer in this sense, and I'm grateful for what he did. The fears change along the years. I used to fear drowning. It was always an ever-present fear. One day I'm going to drown down there. So one day I did drown, and looking back to it, it wasn't so terrible. So if it's time to go, well, I wouldn't mind it being that way. Then one day, on one of our expedition, a shark bit one of our divers, and he was lucky. 155 stitches stitched him up, and he didn't have any permanent damage. But to see this wound and seeing the sharks around for a few years, it affected me quite a bit. And I felt I have to eat as many sharks as I can before they eat me. But as the years pass, you know, you kind of get used to your fears and don't worry so much about it anymore. It happens quite often actually on shipwrecks that we find new discoveries, new things. And I remember one time I found a series of artifacts which seemed to disprove what was believed about this artifact. It is a stone jug called, they call it Rhenish stoneware, a Bellarmine jug actually. And there are a few of these jugs kept in museums. And to see a museum picture and to see that obviously, according to my finds, they had mixed up this collection and put the wrong dates on the individual jugs. May have happened 100 years ago. Nobody knows when it happened, but obviously it looked as if they were mixed up. And well, I wasn't such an expert, but to me it felt like that, it looked like that. And 2 or 3 years passed, and I found that some scientists had come to the same conclusion, that the history in the museum had been mixed up, and the actual proof found on the shipwreck put things back in order again. So, and this is not an uncommon thing to happen. With the shipwreck, we have a kind of a time capsule. When the ship sank, it was a dead stop. Nothing was added to it anymore. Nothing was changed anymore. Nature may have destroyed some of the things, some things deteriorated, but there is a distinct stop there. So you know what was on this wreck, on this date, was the real thing. It hasn't been mixed up. Or you do find sometimes a modern Coca-Cola bottle on a shipwreck. It is a kind of a mix-up. For us it's easy to tell. Maybe in 2000 years it will be less easy to tell what happened there. But as a general rule, a shipwreck is a time capsule which helps dating things much more than a land site. There's much less mix-up on a shipwreck than on a land site where the town has existed for hundreds of years and the earth has been moved and new things have been built on top and trenches have been dug along the hundreds of years. Things have been mixed up more than on a shipwreck.